Paul Bailey, and I'm a qualified nutrition coach. And I've helped hundreds of people improve their health through better eating. And I usually say better eating than dieting or nutrition, because that's really what it's all about, just eating better. But the most common request that I get from people is that people, they just want to lose weight. I mean, especially since lockdown has happened and everybody's been stuck at home and munching on Doritos and things like that. But my question to everybody on this video right now, is it weight that you want to lose? Is it really just weight that you want to lose? Because I mean, you might have noticed that if you do my weekly check-ins, and if you haven't done them, it's just a weekly reminder to check in, help you focus on what you're going to be doing over the next week, and just to keep you accountable, really. And I get you to measure usually around your belly. Now, the reason why I get you to measure around your belly rather than using bathroom scales is because the belly measurement is often a better indicator of health rather than just the number on the scales. So you might have heard of BMI, the body mass index. Now, it's a really rough estimate of health. It's used by many doctors, and many doctors are now realizing it's really not that good and they probably shouldn't be using it anymore, but it's a measure, and there's a lot of lazy doctors out there that will just use that instead. But did you know that most professional athletes would be considered obese, and even people like bodybuilders or rugby players, you know, the big beefy people, they would actually be considered morbidly obese. Now, the reason why is BMI doesn't calculate body fat. So it's kind of a bit pointless, really, because that's the main indicator of health. So your body weight can basically be divided into two main categories. You have your fat mass and your lean mass. So the fat mass is exactly what it sounds like. It's your fat. And our total body fat levels, that's basically your fat mass. Now, the lean mass, well, that's everything else, which can be broken down into bone mass, muscle mass, water, organs, basically everything else in the body that's not fat. So there's a lot of other stuff that could be affected if you're just going to be losing weight. Now, you've probably heard that 1 pound of muscle, funnily enough, weighs exactly the same as 1 pound of fat. And yet they look really, really different, because 1 pound of muscle is much harder and much denser than 1 pound of fat. So if you were to gain 6 pounds of muscle, but drop 6 pounds of body fat, your scales, your bathroom scales, would actually read the same thing. You basically stayed the same weight. But you would look quite different. Your shape would have changed. You'd feel much fitter. You'd have more energy. The change is quite dramatic, but the scales haven't changed at all. Now, muscle loss quite often happens when you solely focus on a calorie decreased diet. Now, of course, reducing your calories is kind of the only way that you can actually lose weight and lose fat. But just reducing your calories probably shouldn't be your only goal, because you risk losing quite a lot of muscle mass if you do that as well. So if you're looking to focus your weight loss journey by utilizing cardio, for example, to burn fat, then that is probably going to come at the expense of, say, strength training. Now, in this case, you're most likely going to be losing some muscle tissue as well. And that's because the calorie restriction often implies macronutrient restriction as well. So you're reducing your carbs and your protein and your fat. So you're kind of reducing everything. And without enough protein in your diet and enough carbohydrate, your body can't rebuild the muscle tissue, even if you do some strength training. Now, one thing you will have noticed is one of the fastest ways to lose weight in the short term is by cutting out carbohydrates. Now, the reason for that is carbohydrates retain 3 times as much water as any other macronutrient. So protein, fats, they don't retain as much water as a carbohydrate does. So basically, when you cut back on carbohydrates, your body doesn't retain as much water. However, your muscles will in a few weeks start to adapt to that kind of dehydration, and they'll start shrinking and getting smaller. So even if you don't slash your carbohydrate intake, just cutting your calories still forces your body to use the glycogen that's stored for energy. And again, that's going to release more water when it's doing that. So you will see quite significant changes on the scales in the first few days or first few weeks even of trying to lose weight. And that is the reason why. So if your goal is actually to lose fat, then the biological process of breaking fat down, either in the food that you're eating or that's already stored in your body, that's actually going to happen mostly by the power of the mitochondria, which are actually in muscles. And the more muscles you have, the more mitochondria you have, and the more fat that you can burn using the mitochondria. So having more mitochondria will improve that function, and that will help you burn more fat. Unfortunately, we can't choose where we lose fat from, so there's no spot reduction here. We can't just focus on the belly fat and get that down. No amount of exercise, doing ab crunches, planks, whatever, it's not going to target the fat in that area, despite the fact that's where you're working everything out. So if you want a flat stomach, then sit-ups alone are not going to cause that reduction in the belly fat, unfortunately. But continuous calorie deficit will basically remove that, but from the entire body as well. And don't forget, your weight can fluctuate significantly during the day, especially if you're going from zero carbs to loads of carbs and then back again, because your body is just suddenly soaking up lots of water and then releasing lots of water. Really, the best way to do it is keep your diet as stable as you can. Otherwise, it just gets really confusing, especially on the scales. So how do you actually measure fat loss? So there are some quite complicated and quite expensive ways of measuring fat in your body. There's a DEXA scan, which is basically an X-ray machine. So it's going to X-ray your body and see the layers of fat around your body and around your organs. There is a BOD pod, which is one of those little pod machines that people get into, and it measures the displacement of air. There's also hydrostatic underwater weighing. Now, I haven't really looked into that in much detail, but it sounds quite traumatic to me. Now, they're all quite expensive ways of doing it, so it's not going to be something you're going to do on a regular basis. You could do the bioelectrical impedance analysis, which is basically those scales with the little electrodes on it, and it passes an electrical current through your body and measures the resistance. The trouble with that is they are really dependent on how hydrated you are, because the more hydrated you are, the better the electrical current will transmit through your body. A really good way and a really cheap way of doing it is skin folds and girth measurements. So you can get some calipers really, really cheap from Amazon for like, I don't know, £5 to £10 or something like that. And you can just take measurements from your arms, your chest, your belly, and your legs. And if you're interested or you have those, I can send you a little spreadsheet to put the calculations in, and that'll work out roughly how much body fat you have. Girth measurements is the one I tend to prefer, because pretty much everybody has a tape measure, and just measuring around your belly button is going to be a really good indicator of how much body fat you have. Also pictures. I get people to take progress pictures all the time. A lot of people resist it because they don't like looking at their own body. They feel it's narcissistic, but it's just for you. Don't have to send it to anybody else. And it's just so that you can see the differences, the nuances in your shape. I have one client who was always worried about his muffin top and his belly. But it wasn't until he actually took a picture of his back that he saw the difference in his shape. And that's something that I always encourage people to do when they do take a progress picture. Take the front, side, and back, and then do it again once a month later. If you want to, you can send those pictures to me privately, because sometimes an objective third person looking at those pictures that is unrelated to you can actually see differences in those changes in your body that maybe you or your partner can't actually see yet. So gaining muscle might not be your top priority right now, and that's absolutely fine. Most of my clients start just focusing on losing weight and body fat. And after a while, once they've lost some weight, they just get more energy. They feel more motivated. They feel like they can get out and do more. And at that point, that's obviously a great time to get out and do a bit more, do a bit of cardio, do a bit of strength training. But don't worry, you don't have to do it yet if that's not your thing. Just focus on the weight loss / fat loss. Because once you do lose a little bit of weight, a little bit of fat, then muscle and building a little bit of muscle is going to really help your fat burning powerhouses, the mitochondria. So, as I said, the mitochondria are responsible for the burning of fat. And the great thing about mitochondria and muscle is that they are active tissue. Unlike fat, they constantly need energy to maintain themselves, usually fatty acids. Now, what does that mean? So think about it. Your body will be burning fat at all times of the day with more muscle, even while you're sleeping. Yep, it's possible to actually burn fat in your sleep, and that's how, by having a little bit more muscle. So losing weight other than fat is unavoidable, but the loss of muscle mass alone will cause a kind of rebound effect that will gain to weight, extra weight gain, where losing that muscle is going to slow down that sort of burning of the fat cells through the mitochondria, and your metabolism gets slower and the weight keeps coming back on again. So really, my take-home message for the day is a lot of people talk about weight loss when actually what they really want to do is focus on fat loss, because people that are trying to lose weight are trying to do so to look better, feel better, and improve their health. And if you're overweight, then focusing on a scale might provide some accountability and some idea of your progress. But to get fitter and leaner, the most important measure that you can actually have is your body fat measure, to really ensure that you're going to meet your goals of feeling better, getting fitter, and improving your health. So, hands up, guys. Post in the comments, do you want to lose weight or fat? Knowing what your goals are and then picking a plan to really work on that is going to get you in the right direction, help you achieve what you want, and get you fitter, healthier, and sexier. I hope you found this useful, guys. If you do have any questions, post them in the comments right now, and I will pop back in an hour or so and every so often to have a look at the comments and answer any questions that you have here. So post in the comments right now if you want to lose weight or you want to lose fat, or if you have any questions, post them in the comments right now. Look forward to speaking to you really soon. Take care, guys. See you soon.